Hey guys, it's Vandy Ezzo back again with a card fight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to Patreon. And let's get this one started. Today's deck is the last deck in the whole entire V-Series Premium Collection 1 and 2 sets. It is Royal Paladin Jewel Knights. As you know, I pretty much joined Vanguard around like G era, and I fell in love with Limit Break, and Break Ride is technically a part of Limit Break, so I always used a lot of Break Ride decks. Jewel Knight was never one of the decks I used. Not because I didn't really like no, it is partially because I didn't like the aesthetic of it. I don't know what I didn't find about Jewel Knights appealing. I just didn't find them good to me. But they're still a good deck, and they've been brought back into V-Series. Let's go ahead and cover this deck. First up for starter, we have Glime, 6k base, 10k shield, auto and road upon. You get to draw a card, then if your opponent's Vanguard's a greater or a greater, you get to add a quick shield ticket to your hand. So the draw that you always top deck off of for some reason, and the standard 5k shield that doesn't really do anything besides be discard fodder. For triggers, we got 4 Draw PG of Flash Shield Assault, 4 Flogel, 4 Bringer of Good Luck Epona, because its name implies what it does. For some reason, I keep drive checking this every time I play Royals, and I will never stop drive checking it. And we got 4 Heals of Yggdrasil Maiden Elaine. If me and my friend had a dime for every time I either damage checked this or drive checked this, we would have roughly about $20 per trigger, and I'm not joking by that. I'm actually being serious. We would have $20 from just dimes alone. And now into grade 1s. First up, we've got 4 copies of Little Sage Marin, 8k base, grade 1, boost, 10k shield, auto rear once per turn. When your other rear guard is placed in the same column as it, counterblast 1 to draw a card, and it gets plus 3k power to end of turn. So the deck doesn't really counterblast as much. Ashley counterblast, I believe either the grade 1 or the grade 2 counterblast, and that's pretty much it for the Jewel Knight cards. While the card dead, they counterblast. But having Marin here is mainly just to have like the 11k boost to some extent, followed by a draw, because who doesn't like the extra draw? And since you're constantly calling stuff during battle phase, if your opponent maybe saw damage trigger during your attack after you called down your stuff from deck, you can increase their power more if you already boosted with Marin to get at least a draw out of it, and then power it up so hopefully it still hits, or even if it doesn't hit the Vanguard, it can hit something else. So 4 copies because Marin can actually prove useful. 4 copies of Pongo. What was I going to say? 8k base, 10k shield, auto rear when placed. If you have another unit in the same column as it, soul charge 1, and if you soul charge a trigger unit, it gets plus 5k power. So Ashley focuses on soul blasting a lot, and you can maximize this by putting in certain cards that we'll get to later. So having cards that soul charge is always helpful. Pongo gets you a free soul charge, and if you do get a trigger out of it, it gets plus 5k power, making it, if like you're in a bad situation where most of your hands is triggers, you can at least just call Pongo to the front row and hit for a 13k swing, hopefully then swing with Ashley and use Ashley's skill. So Pongo can be useful, so Pongo's at 4. And 4 copies of our last grade 1 and the new Jewel Knight grade 1, charging Jewel Knight more VDS. 8k base, 10k shield, act rear guard, counterblast 1 and put a normal unit from drop down to the bottom of your deck. Soul charge 1 in one of your units with Jewel Knight in its card name, you get plus 5k power to end of turn. So you can give it to Van, you can give it to this, you can give it to the grade 2 if it's on board, and then auto Van or rear. When your other unit is placed on the same circle as it, draw a card. And that's what Jewel Knights focus on. The 3 Jewel Knights we have currently, all of them have abilities where when something is placed on top of it, do a thing. If this is rode upon, you draw a card, or if it's just called upon. If you call something on top of it, or you ride something on top of it, you get a draw out of it. For the grade 2, I believe the unit gets plus 10, and for Ashley, it's counterblast 1, the unit gets plus 1 crit. So all around, they're really helpful. You could ride this on top of your starter. If you're going second, you get regardless, you're getting a draw out of it, and then if you're going second, you get a quick shield. Then next turn, when you ride on top of it, you get another draw, and then after that, if you ride Ashley on top of, presumably what you rode was the Jewel Knight grade 2, Vanguard gets plus 10, and then you can just keep riding Ashley and give the Vanguard an extra crit on it. And it can constantly resend normal units back, so yeah, you can't just send triggers back, but if you could send triggers back, that'd be a bit too broken. So you can send Pongos back to use your skills more. You can send more Jewel Knights back since you have to search for Jewel Knights for Ashley's skill to go off. It's all around just a good card, so 4 copies. 2 copies of Loading Angel with our very first grade 2, 9k base, 5k shield, auto rear at the end of the turn. If you have 5 more units, counterblast 1, put it to soul to draw 2. This isn't necessarily a good card, it's not a bad card either. This deck already has depending on what's the word I'm looking for? How scarcely, I think, you use your counterblast. That's probably not the right word, but it's around the right word. How you use your counterblast. If you use them smartly, you won't run out of them too quickly. But in the case like where you need hand cards or you need soul, you can pay a counterblast to get it a soul and then get 2 hand cards to hopefully bulk up your defenses for next turn or to like enhance your aggressiveness for the following turn. So 2 copies. You don't want to see too many of them, but he is a card that can pull you out of a struggle, so 2 copies. 3 copies of Stabbing Knight Regal. 10k base, 5k shield. Auto rear, when a card is put into your drop zone from your soul, it gets plus 5k power to end of turn. That is not a once per turn ability, and that can be spammed. So that is pretty much the whole reason why this is here, because Ashley's going to be on the Vanguard most of the time, if not all the time, and Ashley's just going to constantly Soul Blast. Even if it's not Ashley that's doing it, there are other cards in the deck that do Soul Blast, so you can use those cards to Soul Blast, and Regale will get plus 5k power off them. So even if you're just going to call something on top of Regale, you can at least use Regale's skill to proc off as much power as physically possible. Attack with Regale first, attack with Van, use Van's skill to call down Jewel Knights, and then, or you can just call Jewel Knights to the same column, and then Regale gets even more power, but if you want to maximize your attacks, you can do that. So 3 copies of Regale, because she is useful. 4 copies of High Dog Breeder Akane. 10k base, 5k shield, auto Vanguard. When placed, counterblast once, search your deck for up to 1 Pongo, call it to rear and shuffle your deck, and continue as Vanguard or Rear Guard. During the battle that it boosted by a high beast, it gets plus 3k power. So you get a free search for Pongo by counterblasting 1. It's, in this deck, it's very iffy on that, because you might not need that counterblast. Don't do it unless you actually need the soul. That's pretty much all I gotta say about it. If you do not need the soul, don't use the skill to counterblast and search for Pongo. If you need the soul, do it. Otherwise, there's no reason to do it. While the extra 3k boost just helps it if you want to do like the Regal play where you call Regal to 1 column, then you just call Akane to another, boost it with the high beast, then you call 2 Jewel Knights in that column, and then Regal gets more power, and then you just keep rushing your opponent with big numbers. So 4 copies because Akane can just be helpful in general. And our last grade 2, 4 copies of Explode Jewel Knight Laylee. Probably said that wrong. 10k power, 5k shield, auto rear. When it attacks, put 2 normal units from your drop zone at the bottom of your deck in any order. Soul charge 1, and this unit gets plus 5k power at end of turn. So it's literally a free soul charge, and you send stuff back. And what I like about this is because since you're going to be soul blasting a lot and soul charging a lot, you're going to deck yourself out pretty quickly, especially since you're searching every turn. So being able to send stuff back is always helpful. And then, like I said earlier, auto Vanguard, when it's rode upon or something is placed in the same circle as it, it gets plus 10k power to end of turn. So pretty much buffing up the circle. Now, if I don't think Bushiroad will ever do this, but if they do, I would greatly appreciate it, where they make Legion for, I guess, like rear guard circles. And because of how the things are worded, where it just says placed in the same circle, your rear guard's Legion with something else, or like you call them to one circle, then you call something else to another circle, and then they get more power from it. And yeah, oh my god, that should be an over trigger where you can call. No, how will you pull that off during the battle phase though? You know, we'll figure that out in post. I actually want that to be a thing now. 4 copies though, because she can give more power, and she can just recycle your deck for free, I might add, and give you a free soul charge. And now into grade 3s. 2 copies of Powerful Sage Baryon. 13k base, grade 3, Force Gift, auto Vanguard rear. When your other rear guard is placed, it gets plus 3k power on your turn. So another way to proc numbers, there are a lot of ways to do this deck where you could either get 5 attacks out in a turn or get 4 attacks out and be at bigger numbers. And its other skill, act rear guard once per turn if your damage zone has more cards than your opponent. Soul Blast 1 and discard 1, draw 2. So you Soul Blast a lot, but at the same time you Soul Charge an equal amount, so I don't think you'll ever have a problem doing this. And you just discard 1 to draw 2. My only thing with this is, see this and do not let your opponent kill it during their turn. Or wait, no, never mind, it's a non-attack skill. Make sure this goes off, because you do actually get really close to decking out if you're going like ham full aggressive on it. So if you start seeing your deck is low, call down this thing to the front, just rush. I don't even care if it can hit or not, but prioritize saving your deck instead of like trying to kill them that turn or like waste as many hand cards as possible. Because in that situation where I've been in before, it's better to just get your deck back, because that's something you can guaranteed happen, where if your opponent has like a PG or stuff that can stop them in general, it's going to be a waste if you just go for the attack instead of go for the defense. So 2 copies of Baron, though, because it can just help you get the hand cards back, and it can get more power, making the deck a lot harder to block against. 2 copies of Swordsman of the Explosive Flames, Palamedes. 13k base, Force Gift, Grade 3, Auto Vandereer when placed, Soul Charge 1. So that's just a straight up free Soul Charge. Place it anywhere if you want, because you can free Soul Charge, screw it. And then Auto Vandereer, when a card is put into your drop zone from your soul during this turn, it gets plus 5k power to end of turn. Same thing as Regal, and it just gives an example where if you Soul Blast 5, it gets plus 25. So it's basically the Grade 3 version of Regal. You get another Soul Charge out of it, and because of how, what's its name, actually works, if you have Baron, Palamedes, Regal, or yeah, if you have any one of those 3 on the board in a rear guard column, you could just sacrifice 5 attacks, go down to 4 attacks, and your things will be hitting for such big numbers that your opponent will just suffer from it. Really good card to have. I don't think you want too many of it, especially when you think about what options you could to change this deck around, so I think 2 is an appropriate number. And finally, our last card, 4 copies of Pure Heart Jewel Knight Ashley. 13k base, Grade 3, Twin Drive, Force Gift. Auto Vandereer, at the end of the battle that it attacked, Soul Blast 2, search your deck for up to 1 Grade 2 or less card with Jewel Knight in its card name, call it to rear and shuffle your deck, and if it's on Van, you call up to 2 cards instead of 1. So unfortunately, yes, you have to search a Jewel Knight, so you can't just create some bullshit loop between a bunch of cards that I'm not even sure is physically possible, and then just keep looping them to get more and more attacks out of it, because and also restricted to Grade 2 or less because you can't just spam Ashley's out to the board. But you can still call them on top of it if it's on rear, and you can just get multiple on them. And it's not the opponent being at Grade 3 for this to go off, so that's always helpful, so you can go first and still benefit off it. And then Auto Vandereer, as I described earlier, when another is placed on its circle, counterblast 1, and it gets plus 1 crit till end of turn. So pretty much giving your Vanguard an extra crit to give them reasons to guard the attack. And the Soul Blast 2 just being a good prime number, adding plus 10k power to any of your units, making it so that your opponent has to throw down at least a 15k shield. And yeah, Ashley's got a lot to unpack with that, and Ashley's just really good to have. If you want like a good little rush scenario, you could do ride 1 Ashley, call another one, attack with, by the way, this involves you having like 6 soul, attack with 1, at the end of the battle that one attacked, Soul Blast 2, call the Grade 2 on top of it, and skill, it gets plus 1 crit. Grade 2 swings, send stuff to bottom, Soul Charge 1, plus 5k power, I think it is. Is it 5k? Yes, it is 5k. Swing with the Grade 2, and they block or take it, it doesn't matter. You attack with the other rear guard Ashley, use that one skill at the end of its battle, Soul Blast 2, call the other copy of the Grade 2, kill the other thing, attack with it, also gets plus 1 crit, send more stuff back to deck, Soul Charge more, power up more, attack with Vanguard Ashley, use its skill, and then you just got like a bunch of attacks for free, basically. If you do that right, you basically get 7 free attacks in a go, and that's always very helpful. And there's a different way to build this deck. You can use Soul Saver in the build. I can see why, because Soul Saver, if you're on the situation where Ashley just isn't pushing hard enough for you, and you need the power over the multi-attack, Go for Soul Saver, man. Like, get Soul Saver down, or you're out of Jewel Knights. That's always the scenario. Go for Soul Saver. You probably have enough soul to do it. Soul Blast. Palamedes will get buff as all hell, so will Regal. And just, yeah, pump up your board. So, Ashley is just all-around good card, and there are many ways to build this deck, but I like this one because I feel like it's more consistent in terms of hand. Gift-wise, we have Imaginary Gift, Force 1. It's the standard when acquired. You can put it on Vandereer. And then if it's whatever circle is on, it gets plus 10k power during your turn, which can be stacked. So if it's on the Vanguard circle, if you have 2 on Van, it gets plus 20. If you have 1 on Van and 1 on rear, both those ones get plus 10. And then Force 2, it makes the original critical of whatever circle it's on 2, which means you can't stack it, but that's always helpful to have, and you can put it on Van or rear as well. I like to change it around with the situation. If I know my opponent has like a big hand, and I know like wiping it out is going to be the equivalent of like every 2 cards I take from them I have to pay the same amount of resources to get rid of, I would rather just pick the 2 crit so I can actually force them to guard force them to guard quicker, I might add, and then just have them come to me while just me trying to ram down a giant buff shield that is unbreakable with a plastic knife that is definitely going to break on impact with the shield. So Force 2 I feel like does better, but you could also do Force 1 to get more power if your opponent is one of those people that are defensive-wise a lot of the time, or like most of the game where they won't bring themselves to 5 damage like I will very quickly. So yeah, just read the situation and go for it, but I feel like Force 2 you'll use a lot more. And the quick shield, I will say it every time. Why is it not an actual 5k shield? It literally is called a shield. It has the art of a shield. Why is it not a 5k shield? Or why doesn't it just say add 5,000 to your shield instead of add 5,000 power? Why? And that was the deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed. V-Series Premium Collection gave us a lot of good decks. They're all very fun to play. Even the ones that I hated, which in particular, that one was the least fun. I will forever remember how I was just sitting there for so long trying to just end my stalemate of a game, but no, I had to suffer through it. But every other deck was pretty much fun for me, and Jewel Knights is bringing back its break ride. Hopefully when they make us the new premium collection for V-Series later on in Overdress, hopefully they give us more Jewel Knights, because I feel like they could expand on Jewel Knights and make them stronger in V Premium. And yep, that was the deck. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon. I have a Discord, so you can go join that. I have a Twitch channel, so you can go follow that. And I have and my second channel focused on Beyblade is in the description below, so you can go subscribe to that. And I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.